Hey, it's J-Bo. Welcome back to Music Drives Us. Today, our special guest, we are honored to talk to the iconic Don Barnes of 38 Special, million seller, celebrating 50 years, their brand new album, Milestone. Don, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me on, J-Bo. How you been?
I'm great now getting to talk to you. The album's unbelievable. All I haven't said, I feel like it's modern, yet still a tribute to like the Hold On Loosely days and Caught Up in You.
That song I always felt like was my diamond. That just seemed like it came together so well. It was magical, and I got to tell you, it the way it came about.
Wow.
My wife was in the. Do you know anything about this story? She was in the kitchen and she heard me strumming some a major seventh chords and just noodling around, And she said, "What is that? Something you're working on?" I said, "Nah, just noodling around." She said, and she came around the corner. She said, "That sounds like that should be called All I Haven't Said." I'm like, "What? What? Say that again?" So it was like a perfect title. I said, "You got any more compelling titles like that?" She said, "Well, play some more compelling chords. Maybe I'll come up with it." So we sat down. I said, "That's a great title. How do you frame that?" So we were thinking about a story of the men in general are pretty reticent about expressing their romantic feelings, and this had been a more of a mature love, and maybe the woman feels like she hasn't been heard, and he's out in the shop in the garage and he kind of stays to himself, and maybe they had a falling out, and we were trying to frame this story. I said maybe she stepped away a little bit and he wants to tell her how much she means the world to him, but he's never expressed himself like that. That's my wife was Christine. She was sitting there. I said, what's the most ultimate thing a man could say? Like I would shout it from the mountaintops." And she said, "Ooh, how about I would write it across the sky how much I love you?" And I said, "That is huge." So we put this thing together. She helped out with some lyrics, and the chorus is, I could quote all the poets throughout the ages and still not find the words caught in my head. I would write them across the sky how much I love you and all I haven't said. So anytime you put the word poet in something, you better be poetic about it. So it worked out pretty good.
It's beautiful. I was playing when I first got it, and as we were getting ready for the interview, I played it upstairs in the kitchen, and my wife goes, "What's that?" I said, I said, "That's the new 38 Special hit." She goes, "Oh my God." And then I told her the title, and we listened to it together, and she goes, "That's a hit. I love it." And it's that you are an expert at one listen songs. And I'm going to
Well, I don't know about the
segue,
expert.
right? I'm going to segue our connection. My connection to you is the second song I played on the radio as a baby DJ when I was 16 was Vehicle by Ides of March.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, that's your songwriting partner, Jim Peterick. Didn't
Peter.
he contribute on this song?
Absolutely. We had it about three-quarters of the way done, that particular one. I brought it to Jim, and we wrote a bridge and put some tweaked it a little bit, but it was pretty much well done. The chorus was already written. Verses, he did contribute to second verse, but he's always been an instrumental in finishing it, writing it to the wall, as they say. But he co-wrote a lot of songs across the record with me. We always have a great time. He's an old friend of mine, and 40 years later, I told him, I said, he had a number one song at 17 years old. I'm your vehicle, And I said, "Dude, I was putting bulk oil in my car, an old Ford Fairlane at 17." It's like,
Yeah, he was in high school and he came up with Vehicle about his then model girlfriend.
right.
She
Yeah.
didn't want to make it, she didn't want to keep in the friend zone.
Yeah.
He said,
Right.
"But you can drive me to my modeling class
Yeah. She got to get a ride from him all the time. He told me that story.
in his vehicle." And I
Yeah.
think I think that won her over when it became a hit.
Yeah. Yeah. He tried to he told me it was a direct copy of Blood, Sweat, and Tears back in those days, horn band. And, that he sang it and played guitar solo and everything. Like, man, you were awesome, 17 years old.
But back, so that's a radio hit. You have ears for creating unbelievable rock pop radio hits. And I say that with the biggest compliment because Hold On Loosely or All I Haven't Said, that could be played on classic rock. It could be played on pop. It could be played on hot AC. You design these songs. Let me jump. When I see Hold On Loosely, I'm going to play it today on one of the stations I'm on.
Mhm.
Uh, I back up and say, okay, J-Bo, Don Barnes is standing behind you with his arms folded saying, when you're talking over Hold On Lucy, don't mess this up. Let the song breathe. That
Yeah.
don't talk about Taylor Swift. Don't talk about your contest. You need to let this song, because that's what Don Barnes wanted.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, you know, uh, I've always been kind of and Jim knows this too. Both of us have been attentive students of good songwriting, choruses that lift up out of the song, that sing along quality. I think that's what differentiated us from the other Southern rock bands. They were blues oriented, and everything's kind of linear, and it's kind of a jam thing, and takes for a piece of music. But you know, I think that you know, it helped us be separate from that, and be more of a arena rock group with hit songs and radio songs. And I mean, I used to just wake up in my day jobs back in those days, and you know, the alarm clock radio would come on, and some killer song would just felt like it fell out of the sky. And I wonder, how did they do that? You know, I want to learn how to do that. So you know, you take it's a kind of emotional thing. You're sensitive to those kind of things, and I've always been one to. My style of songwriting is I've always kind of cataloged little bits and pieces, and Jim Peterick knows this too. But I'll put like 8 seconds of some guitar figure or something that seems like for the time I'm just noodling, put it on there, and I'll get a collection of about 15 or 20 bits and pieces, and then put it away. Because you get tunnel vision if you start trying to write a song to the wall all the way to finish it. And so if you put it away and you come listen back to it, little micro cassette recorders, anything, it's almost like another person is playing you ideas. I forgot what I put on there, you know, 15 ideas. And so I just go through the little catalog and find 4 or 5 of them like really move me and think, well, that could be a song. We could definitely make that. And I like that intro. I like whatever was, you know, compelling me to write it. So that's a weird way to do it. That's the way I do it. But a lot of other people, they sit and they write it all the way. But, you know, I'll take those little bits sometimes, even way back in the 80s, you know, I said, I got this thing. It's about 20 seconds long. And he's like, ooh, that is good, man. We can make, you know, we could do this, we could do that. And you get instant validation from someone who is a professional. You know, he's a king, man. He's one of the legend and kings, you know, he's out there. But yeah, he would bring a lot to the table. And you know, I'd have a little idea for a chorus. I mean, Hold On Loosely was about, you know, basically was his kitchen table. And he said, and we had just met him. This was 40 something years ago. And I said, I was going through a relationship that was going south, and it was, you know, not happening. And Jeff Carlisi and myself went to his house and sat there, and he said, "So how you guys been doing?" And I said, "Man, what is it about people that just can't seem to tolerate their differences? They want to change the other person. They keep them under their thumb. Don't want them to grow, and that kind of stuff." And I had these notebooks. Songwriters have the notebooks of lines and titles, and I had my book open, and I said, "What do you think about this title? Hold On Loosely." And he said, "Oh yeah, but don't let go." And that was the first thing out of his mouth. It was the great couplet, and it framed that story, encapsulated everything. And we were off to the races. We wrote it about an hour and a half, and it's been like an anthemic song all these years. We save it for the last in the shows because it didn't make it to top 20. I think it was, well, it was 28. Yeah, I think it made it 28. But you know, it's become so important over these years. People come up and say, "Man, that song means so much to our relationship and our marriage and everything. Thank you for that." It's like, really? Because we weren't trying to do that. We were just trying to get on the radio, you know. It's like highly competitive to even get the door open at radio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you should know. Yeah, it charted at peaked at 28, but
Yeah.
radio that started in the 80s with something called, and I'm sure you've heard this name, research. And these big research companies were hired by these big radio stations, and they go into an auditorium, they play 800 song hooks to an audience, and then they pull out the best 400. Hold On Loosely and
Really?
Caught Up in You always comes back and tests.
No
And
kidding.
because people, not everyone buys the same amount of records, or some people don't even buy records. So, but they do want to hear songs on the radio. Hold On Loosely, Caught Up on You, Second Chance, time after time, year after year. It's tests great, and it always makes it in that top 400, sometimes the top 20 or 30. and we played twice a day on our classic hits. So
Yeah.
congratulations, it worked.
Thank you, thank you. We, that's been a long journey. We suffered and starved. We had 2 failed albums, 3 failed albums, basically. But I don't. That's why I don't recommend it to these young guys. Because they want to do it for the partying or the girls or whatever. I said, man, you got to be an artist. You got to learn your craft. You got to be 5 steps ahead of yourself. You can't stop and just have. Some people have asked me if you had to do it over again, what would you do different? I'd probably have had a better time because we
Yeah.
would roll through these cities, sold out arenas everywhere, and look at the marquee, and yeah, that's great and everything, but we've got to have material for our next album. We got, so it's that kind of thing. You got to be really make a big commitment to it, and be that many steps ahead. You sacrifice anniversaries and birthdays and holidays and everything. You got to rehearse, and so that's what we did. Our work ethic was pretty hardcore there.
Yeah. Well, let's hear your latest work. And I'm going to play a snippet of the single off Milestone, celebrating 50 years, 38 special. This is the first time we've ever played a cut on the podcast. So you're breaking a record with us right now.
Excellent.
Let's play. This is All I Haven't Said, a little snippet from Don Barnes and 38 special. You got to be happy with that.
Isn't that beautiful? I every time I heard it, I thought, "Oh, just give this song a fighting chance. This is beautiful. It's a diamond." I'm telling you, it's one of those that you can feel it. I feel it, and if it impresses me after hearing it so many times, then it's got to make a difference to somebody out there.
It's a hit. One listen.
So,
Again, one listen, I'm like, oh my God, they did it again. That is so it's powerful, it's rock, it's ballady, it's
yeah,
just right. You did a great job. So didn't you break a record today? Where are we on the Billboard charts? You just told me.
number
Tell
5.
everybody.
Number 5, top rock albums in the country. Number 5, it debuted. It's only been released a week, so we were, glad to have it out. It went through all the process and getting everything out. And actually, on a side note, it's in the top 30 of albums across the country, but it's number 5 rock album. So top 10. It's a great.
It's September 30th. You hit top 5 today. Congratulations. You must be so proud.
Thank you. It's amazing 50 years later to, be still. I told my manager, Fred, Fred, yeah, I told him, I said, that sound was successful back in the 80s, that sound, my voice, guitar, all the writing. I said, there is no reason at all why that sound can't be successful in 2025. So we tried to make a more updated version of 38 Special. It still has the elements, still has that sound, the guitar figures and arrangements. There's all kind of different songs on the album. There's big guitar bangers in your face. The next song would be like a mid-tempo introspective song. And we just take them for a ride, kind of like our live shows. We unfold that history. We take them for a ride for an hour and a half.
So you mentioned in one interview I saw that talking about your live shows, you're on the road, you're doing a ton of dates, but was it true that you were making Millennium in between the tour, going back and forth? You had to record some and then get back on a plane.
Yeah, we recorded in Collective Soul Studio in South Atlanta. I were friends with those guys. Will Turpin, the bass player, he's a great guy, great friend of ours. But we'd jump off the road. We go record 3 basic tracks, and then we'd get back out and do 18 cities or so, and we'd carve out some time again to all meet. And it was near the airport, so those guys, they're Florida guys. I live in Atlanta, but we'd jump back in there and do 3 basic tracks, and jump back out. It's kind of left brain, right brain thing. You get out there, it's like, how's this go again? Because you're creating, and then you're also rehearsing and unfolding the history. So yeah, and what happened is after we did get all the basic tracks, they're done, bass, drums, keyboards, everything. But I had to go and put all the overdubs and harmonies and vocals and guitar solos. Jerry Riggs came with me. So I'd have to fly up to Chicago through our off time, through the winter. And I found myself in, middle of January in Chicago. Wrong place to be in the middle of January.
It's
It's
cold.
ice storms and everything. But we finally got it done, and there was some parts. I had the car waiting for me out there. I'm in the vocal booth putting the last harmony parts, and he's getting me to the airport midway. I got to get to Indiana or somewhere, But that it was a labor of love, but it was definitely a daunting task to try to put all that together. But I did want to show something for the 50th anniversary. That was what whole goal. Yeah,
But touring versus creating and performing in a studio, that's like you said, that's two different brains,
it
right?
is. Yeah.
Can you explain that, like for young performers that want to do record but also want to perform live?
Yeah, you kinda have to, shut that part of it down and try to, appear in front of a crowd and be everything you can be. Now, we learned a long time ago that, like, playing with ZZ Top specifically, we saw how they became characters. They had to get outside of themselves because backstage, they're quiet and calm, and we learned a lot watching them. Said, "Oh, you can't just go up there and be normal. You gotta go outside of yourself and be 50 feet tall in front of these big arenas and everything." So we did learn how to get outside of yourself because basically we're all, some kind of shy and just normal people, but getting on stage, you gotta, "Hey, how's everybody doing?" And, it's all that. So you're outside of yourself. But, so it's a whole different world there from being in a quiet studio and listening to the guys. That hi-hat loud enough? As this? You're creating as you're going along. And so it's a real task to try to differentiate from it. Yeah.
We saw you at the Woodstock Fair. It was either Biggie or the Woodstock Fair a couple years ago,
Biggie.
and you guys did something so cool. You're playing Second Chance, and you were right at the, I think, third act of the song and the hook, and you yelled out and congratulated the songwriter. So,
Yeah.
and then the audience, applauded, screamed, and right back into the hook, our heart. And it was just a beautiful feel good right as you went into the hook at the
Yeah.
end. And it was so great. I love how
That's
you did
right.
that.
Show business. You got to go out there and be a showman. Do the right things. Yeah.
Who is on the album with you? You got some big names that contributed.
We had a great time doing some different things. Pat Monahan from the band Train, he and Joe Bonamassa had done a version of Hold On Loosely, and they had the intensity there, and they released it to YouTube, and it got like 1 million hits. And so that was the year before, and I found out about it. Someone sent it to me, and so during these phases of recording I was doing, I'm thinking, I'm going to reach out to his manager, see if he would like to sing a song with me or something. The manager got back with me, said he'd absolutely love to do it. He's been a lifelong fan. And so he came and just crushed it. He brought all that soulful singing and ad libs and everything. That was a song called Slightly Controversial. And again, like I said, we were trying to get outside of ourselves and be more of a modernized 38 Special in 2025. And I told Pat, I said, now this song's kind of angular and kind of rude, and he said, "Oh, let's go with the rude one." So he came in and, it was great. I said, "Well, we've made new friendship here." I said, between the two of us, we could probably scare up a pretty good song. We want to do some writing together. And he said, "Hell yeah, let's do that." So we're all looking forward to doing that in the future. The other co-write was, of course, Jim Petery. We talked about him, but Randy Bachman had, he was the Guess Who and Bachman Turner Overdrive and all that. And I found myself in Nashville one day, and the publisher said, "Randy Bachman's in town. Would you like to spend the day with him?" And I said, "Absolutely." I was a big fan of his. And so we got together in a little writing studio, and, we wrote this song called Long, Long Train, and it's haunting chords. I actually started it on piano. It's things when you play something on piano, things look different and they feel different. And so I just transpose. I've done a lot of songs like that. Transpose it from keyboard. I don't consider myself any big piano player, but I can bang on it. I know the chords. Anyway, transpose it to guitar and make a guitar song out of it. But so it was kind of a social commentary song. It was like we both knew we were going to keep something like vague. You don't want to pinpoint anything. You don't want to name any names because then you got a protest song and nobody wants that. So we just kind of framed it as the life, the way life is these days, and what are we leaving our children, and just that kind of thing. But the song itself is so haunting. It's like one of my favorites. It's a mid-tempo, introspective song, but it just floats along, and it's so well done. All the players in the band did a great job, you know. And if you'll listen to it sometime, in the middle of the guitar solo, Jerry Riggs did the kind of Steve Cropper guitar thing, but I wanted to put the ghost on the train. We're talking about, you know, the long, long train, or your will you be included and all that. You know? So you'll hear these harmony guitars behind it, and that's the ghost on the train. So you'll check it out. So that's for all the listeners out there who do have it. They'll hear what I'm talking about. Anyway, but I told Randy, I said, you know, man, I played all your songs in high school dances and teen clubs and all. I said, you know, all the Guess Who songs, American Woman and Shaking All Over and These Eyes and all these early Guess Who songs. And I said, you're kind of part of a pivotal moment in my life. I said, I was a young married man with a baby, and that baby's about as old, almost as old as I am now. But I told him, I said, I was doing day jobs and I was in Florida and digging palm tree holes as a landscape company. There's a lot of palm trees down there, you know. And so I said, I was down in this 5-foot hole, digging a hole, pushing the idiot stick, you know. And I said, the radio was playing in the truck. And I said, I heard the opening chords to Taking Care of Business, but bum, da, 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 you know. And I told him, I said, I was down in the heat of this, in Florida heat in the hole. And I thought, I can play that right there. That guy's on the radio. If he can play that, he can get on the radio. I can do that, you know. So I said, I told him, I said, I literally felt like I got to get myself up out of this hole and get to work, you know. So he loved the story, and it's funny how full circle it comes around. All these decades later, I'm sitting across face to face with this guy writing a song together, the same guy from the palm tree hole. Isn't that odd, surreal, you know? So he loved
He inspired you,
it. Yeah.
and it comes back full circle that he's
Yeah.
on your record. That must make you so proud and excited.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
you know,
so
so
we're
we're
both
both
happy with the
happy
way
the
it
way.
came out. It came out, you did a good job.
You're the soundtrack of our life, Don. I mean, did it make you happy having the goofy fun of the side? You know, everything is, you know, showbiz. Hold on loosely wasn't Joe Dirt,
Oh,
and
yeah.
right,
All those movies. We did a lot of songs for movies. We were on A&M Records, and they had a subsidiary, A&M Films. So we became kind of the token rock band to do movie songs, Teacher, Teacher, and Back to Paradise from Revenge of the Nerds movie. We did the whole soundtrack to Super Troopers, and put a couple songs of Trooper with an Attitude that was in there. But so yeah, it was fun to have those hits and be on MTV at the same time. People were, you know, we unfold that history live. We unfold all this, every song that we've ever charted with, everything, and so people can. It's a real ride. You know, we come out explosive opening, keep climbing. Somewhere around the middle, we give them a little break with Second Chance, and Jerry Riggs is just a master of the guitar. He can dazzle them every night. He did the soundtrack to heavy metal back in the '80s. He had a Capitol Record, and he did a song called Radar Rider. So I introduced him to the crowd, and then he does this little interlude, almost like a Pink Floyd, like a David Gilmour thing, and he transforms the whole arena into a completely different atmosphere, you know. And so, and I can, of course, go back off stage and rest my voice for a minute, and drink some hot tea and throat spray and all that, and get back out. But Jerry does a great job, and so it's like having Jeff Beck on the other side of the stage. He brings that power, and he's just a sweet guy, So we have a great time together. We all roll down the road. Our crew is our family, and basically what we were doing the past couple decades was taking care of our people. The live business has gone through the roof. We do more than 100 cities a year. So
yeah,
I got 16 people out there that with their families that rely on this enterprise to keep solvent. And so we're basically taking care of our people. But I did have some pieces of songs and bits and things that I knew it was going to come a day that there's going to be a big purpose for it. And this 50th anniversary came around. So that was time.
it's so incredible. Your top five rock album today
Yeah,
on September 30th.
that's amazing.
and it just sounds unbelievable. Our podcast, as we talked about, we keep the music programs in schools, and for the younger people today, um, that pick up an instrument, what can you say to them that that passion is in them, sort of like the guy that's in the hole,
Yeah.
and here's Bachman Turner Overdrive. What do you have to say to that person today?
Well, first of all, do it, as a hobby. It's a great outlet. You can exercise, you can put your passion into it. And if I have been, I don't mean to sound discouraging, but I have told these younger guys, don't try to if you try to eat from it and pay your bills, that's a whole different story. I said, have a good time on the weekends with your buddies, playing cover songs, doing all that. But again, if you try to make a living from it, that's tough. But it's great. I've known a lot of these master virtuoso musicians that they're happy with where they are playing their instrument. I met a guy on a plane. He was first chair, a trumpet guy. He was played all over the world. And he said, yeah, that horn has taken me all the way. He was China Symphony, Hong Kong Symphony, London Philharmonic. Everybody wants him. He's in demand. He says, this little horn I've been playing since third grade. He said, it's taken me around the world. And it was great to talk to somebody like that. I was so impressed by, first of all, his vast knowledge of music. I'm a hack compared to him, so I was as much respect to this guy, but anyway, so it's important to have an outlet. Sometimes the frustrating parts of growing up and, what's the word, insecurity, unsure, not a lot of confidence. Sometimes you can pick up an instrument and it's just you and the instrument. And I remember as a kid, the guitar, it was acoustic guitar, and it'd have that vibration against your chest. And I didn't have a great childhood growing up. It was really rough and broken family and all that, but a long story. But putting that guitar, it would soothe me because that vibration went right into your heart, right into your chest. And to this day, it still does that. You pick it up and it feels that warmth, like an old friend. And I play that old Les Paul Jr. You've probably seen it. It looks like it's been drugged behind a truck somewhere. But that guitar is one of my beginner guitars. When I was 16 years old, I took it all around the world. That guitar's been with me. Still plays great. The very first one is in the museum in Georgia Music Hall of Fame, and that was the one had all the headaches and heartaches and everything growing up. I didn't have any money, but I did, buy this guitar. It was like $85 when I was 16 years old, but it was a vehicle to get somewhere and to learn and so yeah, I do go visit that guitar every now and then. It was I played it so much that the sweat and just all the wear and tear, the fingerboard started rising up off the neck and the frets and everything. So I retired it. It's in the museum behind glass. But it's so funny to go, I do drop by there and see it, to visit my old guitar. Yeah.
The symbolism must almost overwhelm you in a good way. It just takes you back of all the memories and the heart,
All the
the
memories.
labor of love.
Yeah, and all the frustrations and their failures. There was so much failure. I tell these young guys, be prepared to experience that disappointment and that failure because nobody knows who you are. You're going to have to prove yourself. You got to make your mark, make them listen to you. But the first few songs I've probably written 500 and maybe published 50. But you go through the process, you got to go through A to Z every time. You got to, sometimes you end up with a B song and not an A song, but you did go through the exercise and you learn from it. So those things like that can be a growth process, So I told them, be prepared for failure because inevitably you're going to fail for a while until people take you seriously. And if you can present something that's got some merit to it. But I love to see kids playing, man. It warms my heart. Like I said, if they've got a horn or they got a guitar or something, again, that vibration through your body, it's a physical thing more so.
We're going to isolate this and make this a clip, a video clip, what you just
Great.
said,
Yeah.
and pound that on social media. Well, this has been a tutorial in how how it's done. And Don Barnes, 38 Special, go to 38special.com. You got to hear the song, get the album, get the merch. Can you get the song in the album when you tour at the show?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's for sale, but of course, it's all available Amazon and all the outlets, Apple Music, it's streaming on Spotify and Tidal and Pandora and everything. It's all available. And we did put out an LP too. It's a gatefold album, first one we ever had in our career. But the vinyl itself is red and orange. They put all these colors in it. So it's beautiful. Look online, you'll see the package there. It's a great, beautiful package, yeah.
The vinyl. Got to get the vinyl for this.
Yeah. They're cleaning out that vinyl. We've got to order more, have more manufactured. I didn't realize what percentage of sales were vinyl. Yeah, that
Vinyl's
is
up.
that is
Oh my
amazing.
God. We could talk all day, Don. Thank you so much.
Let's do it.
38special.com, celebrating 50 years. The album in the rock chart, top 5 today.
Love it.
Uh,
Proud of it.
oh my God. You should be so proud. Again, congrats on your success. Congrats on the album, Milestone. Get it today, 38special.com. Maybe we'll do a check-in in 6 months
Absolutely. Let's
and
do
you'll
it,
saying
Jabo.
it's #1, Jabo.
All right, let's do it. From your mouth to God's ear, right? Number one. Thank you for having me on, Jabo. It's been a pleasure. Come see us sometime. Thank you, buddy. Take care.